On today's episode of Left Off the Map, we discover the awesome experience that is dining at Saffire. Back in the kitchen, I'll be working with a great root vegetable in celeriac. But to start the episode, I'm making a classic French dish, a kid-friendly fondue. Fondue is a classic dish from the 70s. I used to have it when I was a little kid. We did a cheese fondue and we did a chocolate fondue. You do chocolate with berries and fruit and things like that, marshmallows. And then you do a cheese fondue with mainly bread is what we would have with our sourdough. So I've got some sourdough. I'm gonna show you how to make the classic fondue. All right, first thing you have to do is make a roux. So I've got some butter. Need about 1, 2, 3 knobs of butter. Some garlic. About 2 cloves of garlic. Thinly sliced. I'm going to melt that butter, and once it's melted, I'm going to add in my flour for my roux. All right, my butter, I just melted that. I want to leave it on a low heat because I need to cook out the flour. When I add the flour to the butter, I need to cook that flour out. So we'll add in, it's about the same butter to flour. So I had 3 knobs of butter. So I want about 3 tablespoons of flour. And then mix those two together. Or 3, the garlic as well. Stir in that flour and then cook that roux out. That is what you'll end up with once you've made your roux. Once you've got it to that point, just let it sit for about a minute just to cook that flour out. Then we're going to add some milk, a little bit of milk at a time, and let it all come together. And it'll be quite thick to begin with, but as we add more milk, it's going to thin out. We don't put all the milk in at once because you'll end up with lumps in your fondue, so we add it a little bit at a time. All right, that flour is cooked out. Oh, so I need a teaspoon of cayenne pepper when I put the flour in as well, or paprika, as I'm doing. So mix that in as well. Beautiful smoky flavour. So a little bit of milk to begin with, not much, about 1/4 cup. And that'll make it a lot easier to bring together and you won't end up with lumps. And that'll thicken up really quickly. So that'll go to that really quick. Then add a little bit more, same again, about 1/4 cup. It's enough to cover the roux, and then mix that in again. All right, so that's coming together, still nice and thick. And we'll add again. We'll do this about 4 or 5 times until it starts getting to the consistency that we want. Probably, we've got a bit over 1 cup of milk in there now. Actually, we're probably close to 2 cups. This is where you're kind of checking to see if it's the consistency that you want. I'll give you a look. That's the consistency that we're at now. So, our vintage cheddar, we'll use that one. The Havarti, which is smooth and creamy and a great melting cheese. And then this is the Ashgrove Bay of Fires. It's a Rubicon red. So it's got that great colour that will add to the colour of the paprika that we've got in there as well. So I'm going to use those 3 cheeses, grate them, and then put them in. Just a touch more milk, not much, and then my sour cream. About 1/4 cup of sour cream, we'll mix that in and see. So now I can turn that heat off. Add in my cheeses, and it may just need a little season with salt. Pinch of salt. Now it's time my cheese. I can turn that heat off, like I said. The residual heat in there will be enough to melt our cheese. Ended up using my full block of the mature cheddar, used half a block of the Rubicon Red and half a block of the Havarti. And now it's just a matter of mixing that so all the cheese melts. Taste it, see if you're happy with the cheese flavour, make sure it's got enough salt. And then you're ready to dunk in your sourdough. I have to admit, my job is one of the luckiest jobs you're ever going to get in the world. I get to travel around Tasmania, my home state, Australia, and the country, and taste food, experience accommodation, experience the things that this world has to offer that make us want to live in it. Now, there is one offering here in Tasmania that I haven't got to do yet, and I'm excited because I get to do it over the next couple of days. It's the Saffire experience. Now, Saffire is an accommodation like no other on the east coast of Tasmania, just outside of Coles Bay. I've got a few things that I'm definitely going to do, and I know I'm doing it. A connection to country, which is Aboriginal native ingredient forage with local elder Mick McQuillan. I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm about to go and experience that. And also get to learn a bit about bees and honey that live in this part of the world, the honey they create and how important they are to the environment. Then you get the actual Saffire Dining experience, which I get to do a little bit later with head chef Ian Todd. We're going to taste some of the dishes from the menu that constantly changes. Now, everyone talks about the luxury here at Saffire, and it is very luxurious. But I think the thing that makes it stand out from any other accommodation experience you're going to get is how centred it is in the environment that it lives in. You kind of feel like you're part of the environment no matter where you go on the property, and the options that you get while you're here. You can stay in that luxury and enjoy the accommodation, enjoy the main dining suite, and enjoy all the things that Tasmanian produce has to offer. Or you can get out and experience things like archery, like the bee tour, the Tasmanian devil feeding, connection to country that I'm about to do. It is a very, very special place. I've spent one day here already. I've got one more night and one more day. I can't wait to see how I feel at the end of it. So Toddy, tell me about the curated food experience that diners and customers to Saffire get.
Saffire is unique in the way that it's not really a restaurant, it's a whole kind of experience where you come and you stay. You're here for breakfast, lunch and dinner and snacks and experiences in between. So we're not doing a menu that's one-off. You might come and have every 6 months. You're here for every meal. So we've got to be very careful with how we have variety so that each meal is different. We do a daily changing tasting menu. Lunch menu is different every day, so there's this amount of variety that you just wouldn't believe when you come and stay. And we're using the very best produce we can get our hands on, the best ingredients we can get from, you know, the tamari soy sauce we use is incredible, the Wagyu beef we use is incredible. The way that everything is from the island really ties it all together in a cohesive way, I think. So it's it's not a restaurant, it's much more than that.
Yeah, it's a full food experience really, isn't it? Where you've got to think about every part of the diner's experience, like you said, from the moment they get up in the morning until they're finished at the end of the night, you're catering for every little whim they want in that day.
Yeah, and any dietary requirements. So if someone can't have gluten or they're a vegetarian, we'll write them their own special tasting menu so they can feel confident to order anything off that. We kind of take the guesswork out of it and make sure that when they come in, they sit down, they know that they're going to be looked after and they feel secure that we've got it in hand and they don't have to worry about anything for the whole time they're here. So if someone wants to eat a salad and chips, we'll make that. If they want to have Wagyu beef for 3 meals a day, we can do that. So sort of anything in between.
Yeah. And one of those diner experiences or guest experiences is a cooking demonstration. You've done one of those today.
Yeah.
So what did you cook today? How interactive is it? Do people see a dish that you're working with on the menu at the moment, or are you making it up on the day, on the spot, or how's it work?
It really depends. If someone's been staying with us for a while and we know what they like, we can tailor that experience to something that they want to see.
Yep.
I often will do boning out chickens and we'll do a galantine or something like that, so it's a bit of an upskilling thing rather than a dish off the menu.
Yep.
If we've got something I'm really excited about just come into the kitchen that's new in season, we'll do something with that. So it really depends. But today I use the Wagyu from Robins Island on the north coast. It's really incredible beef. So the cap off the sirloin we use for that, and I just did a tataki, so blowtorched it on the outside, a little dressing with some beautiful mirin and white tamari. And we use some of our honey from the hives we have here on site.
Yep.
I infuse a few kunzia flowers, which is just kind of starting to bloom now as well. So it really gives that link to Saffire and the experiences you've seen out in doing the bees, back to the table in the afternoon. So yeah, like the whole thing about Saffire is that holistic experience, and we try and bring it all together and give people those points of reference.
So as a guest, they can come to you and say, look, chef, can you show me something that you think I'll really enjoy? Or if they've eaten something off the menu that they really like, they could come to you and say, look, I'd like you to show me how to make that, because when I go home, I want to keep eating that food.
Absolutely. So we can do either. If someone wants a recipe, we're happy to share our recipes with everyone.
Yep.
If they want to come into the kitchen and see what we're doing, we're happy to do that. If there's something, it's an anniversary and they ate beans on toast for their first anniversary and it's their 50th, we'll do that. So just try and make it as special as we can and tailor that experience. The longer you stay, the better we get to know you, the more tailored it will be and enjoyable it will be for us and for the guests.
So I'm about to have Dego for dinner. What are you doing at the moment in the kitchen?
We've got a bit of lobster on there, which we get in live and treat very simply. We've got some beautiful lamb from Wild Clover, which is dry aged on the bone for 21 days. So that's, you wouldn't have better lamb than that. We've got a beautiful dessert using some tea from a supplier down in Hobart, doing something pretty special for us down there. So we'll tell the stories as the dishes come out. We'll point things out that are special and try and include you in that process.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Cool, thanks.
Veloutés are all the rage in restaurants at the moment, and basically a velouté is a really smooth puree and a little bit lighter. We're going to do a celeriac one this time. So this is celeriac. It's the root that you actually cook. It tastes or smells and tastes a little bit like celery, but it's creamier. It's got a decent amount of starch in it, so it's a nice creamy texture. I'm just going to take the skin off. You can mix it with other ingredients as well. You can mix it with leek or potato. It goes really well with garlic, all those kind of ingredients. So it's a very versatile vegetable. Now we've just got our celery root. Just want to chop this into cubes. So once I'm done dicing this, it'll go into a pot with about 1 cup of milk and about 1 cup of chicken stock, enough to cover all of the celeriac. And then we're going to poach that until it's nice and tender enough to be able to blitz. We're going to finish with some burnt butter and some sage. So I'm just going to burn the butter off, add some sage to it and some lemon juice, and finish with that on top. You can actually mix the butter into the velouté and get that flavour all through the velouté, or you can just drizzle it on top. We'll probably mix it through. While our celeriac poaches in there, I'm going to create a cartouche, which is just a loose-fitting lid which sits on top of the fluid that we're poaching in. So get yourself a bit of baking paper, fold it in half, and in half again. And then almost like you're making a paper airplane, you're folding it into a triangle. So over on itself, until you've got a triangle. And then you want to measure from the middle of your pot to the outside. Your cartouche there. And when that opens up, you'll have a little lid which you can push down on top. The reason why I'm using a cartouche and not a lid is because I want the lid to be directly on top of the fluid so that nothing escapes. If you put a lid on there, you're going to have some sort of steam build up. That steam's going to get out. So this way we keep a lid directly on top of our liquid and nothing gets out. That's been cooking for a good 45 minutes, and you can see we've separated out the solids from the liquid. So we've got to re-emulsify that and bring it all back together, which is why we need the stick blender. So those proteins are separated into proteins and whey. We've got to get that to come back together. Just because we've had the milk under such a stress, and when you add stress, whether it be salt or heat or vinegar, it's going to separate. So we need to bring them back together. Just add a little bit more milk and then blitz that up. So I'm going to blitz without the butter first and then get it pretty much 90% there, and then I'll burn my butter and add that butter to the velouté right at the end and blitz that in. Now when we're blitzing, we're trying to do two things. One, we're trying to break up the celeriac and make it nice and smooth. We're also trying to aerate the puree, which is where we get that velouté type mixture rather than a puree. Now you just get air into it by allowing the blitzer to suck some air in, and we've got a nice, smooth, silky puree. So I'll turn that off. Set that off to the side, and now I just want to burn my butter. When you burn butter, you've got milk solids that make up part of the butter, and they're the bits that you're trying to burn. They give a sort of caramelly toasted flavour. That's what we're trying to create. So I'm going to add some of our butter into our saucepan, and you'll smell the change in the butter before you see it. So you'll smell it starts to go nice and toasty, and then we've got to sort of get it off the heat as fast as we can to stop that cooking process. So once we get it to that point where it starts to go golden brown and we start to smell that toasty burnt flavour. We're going to add some lemon juice to it, take the heat out of the pan, and some sage, and just let that cook off for the last 30-45 seconds. And then we'll add that to our velouté and blitz that sage-flavoured burnt butter through our velouté. Now everything has come together for our velouté. You can see it's nice and airy. There are bubbles in there, which is what we want. And pop that into a bowl. And then if you want to, if it sits around for a while, you can blitz it again to aerate it again. Just keep doing that as you need to. This will be nice and light. It'll be really intense and rich in flavour, which is what we want, but it will feel nice and light when you're eating it. Just give that a taste and see if it needs any salt on top. A little pinch of salt. There we go. It is really, really light and delicate when you put it in your mouth. It sort of just disappears, which is what you want from a velouté. You want it to be really airy and really light. And as soon as it sort of hits your palate, it's gone, and then you have the next mouthful. It is versatile as well. You can have it just as a soup, or you can use it as a puree underneath some beef or lamb, something like that. It's a very versatile soup or puree. You can even have it with fish if you wanted to. But the lightness of it is going to be the thing that you're surprised by most. That ability to eat some and have it completely disappear in your mouth is the thing that I love most about making this celeriac velouté.